Civil procedure is notoriously difficult. To the uninitiated, the Civil Procedure Code appears as a disconnected matrix of arbitrary rules. Beneath that apparent chaos lies a strict, linear algorithm. It is a highly ordered machine designed to initiate, adjudicate, and enforce civil rights. This flowchart illustrates the suit pathway. Every civil dispute moves through exactly 5 sequential nodes: initiation, pleadings, adjudication, finality, and execution. Identifying the specific binary anchors and mnemonic triggers at each stage reveals how the code transitions between these nodes. Mastering this algorithmic approach eliminates the need for brute force memorization. By understanding these structural mechanics, you convert a dense syllabus into a predictable, highly retrievable framework for both exams and complex litigation. This pathway begins by establishing jurisdiction and valid timeframes. As we inspect Node 1, we find the absolute prerequisites for a suit surviving Day 0. Sections 16 through 20 dictate the place of suing. The geography of the suit hinges on specific geospatial triggers. Disputes over immutable property must be filed where the property is situated. For torts, the plaintiff chooses the forum. For other cases, the anchor is the defendant's residence or where the cause of action arises. Even with the correct geography, a plaintiff faces 2 fatal procedural traps before a trial can legally commence. This split screen breaks down the first trap, the defect in the plaint itself. On the left, a return of plaint under Order 7, Rule 10 occurs when the court lacks jurisdiction. On the right, a rejection of plaint happens due to a structural defect, like failing to disclose a cause of action. A rejection operates as a deemed decree, permitting a fresh suit, while a return does not. The second major hurdle is the Limitation Act. The general principle of limitation is that it bars your legal remedy, leaving the underlying legal right intact. The court simply will no longer enforce it. But look at this timeline charting adverse possession: 12 years for private property and 30 years for government land. Section 27 dictates that failing to file a suit for possession within this window uniquely breaks the general rule. It entirely extinguishes the true owner's right. A limitation period can be legally reset. Section 18 requires a written, signed acknowledgement of liability before the initial period expires. Section 19 achieves the exact same reset, but specifically demands signed evidence of a part payment. Failing to navigate Node 1 means the suit is procedurally dead on arrival, completely blocking the court from ever hearing the substantive merits. Assuming the plaint survives, we advance to Node 2, the trial phase. Here, the court must manage the status quo while the dispute is pending. The primary procedural tool to freeze the subject matter of the suit is the temporary injunction under Order 39. To grant this injunction, a court must pass 3 mandatory tests, shown on these pillars using the PBI mnemonic: a prima facie case, a balance of convenience in favor of the plaintiff, and the threat of irreparable injury. Pendency ends at the culmination of the trial phase, the formal delivery of the Section 2, Subsection 2 decree. For a decision to legally qualify as a decree, it requires 5 non-negotiable components, A, S, D, C, F. It requires an adjudication, inside a suit, that determines the rights of the parties, is conclusive in nature, and utilizes a formal expression. We contrast the decree directly with the Section 2, Subsection 14 order using this binary anchor. The decisive separator is the origin point. A decree requires a suit origin. It must begin with a formal plaint.
An order can originate from any application. Judgments, defined under Section 2, Subsection 9, merely provide the legal grounds upon which those decrees or orders are based. Instantly distinguishing a decree from an order is critical. This categorization dictates the entire trajectory of appeals and revisions that follow. The judicial system requires a definitive end to disputes. We need this absolute finality to prevent endless, paralyzing relitigation within the courts. To enforce this, the CPC relies on 2 primary shields to block duplicative suits: Section 10 and Section 11. We resolve the confusion between the 2 doctrines using a binary anchor based on the status of the first suit. Section 10, res sub judice, halts a subsequent suit when the same matter is currently pending. Section 11, res judicata, bars a retrial when the matter has already been decided. The barrier of res judicata is absolute, but it requires a strict set of conditions to trigger. This matrix outlines the mandatory checklist that must be satisfied. Use the MPTCH mnemonic. Both suits must share the same matter, the same parties, under the same title, in a competent court, and the issue must have been heard and finally decided. Section 11 also introduces explanation IV, constructive res judicata, which radically expands the scope of this shield. This doctrine punishes litigants for withholding arguments. It explicitly bars any issue that might and ought to have been raised initially, treating unargued points as if they were already decided against you. These doctrines force parties to consolidate their entire offensive and defensive strategies into a single proceeding, ensuring systemic efficiency. In the final phase of the algorithm, a decree is either challenged or converted into physical reality. Appellate challenges act as strict gatekeepers. Section 100 second appeals are permitted solely for substantial questions of law. Facts cannot be relitigated here. We contrast post-decree challenges using this grid. An Order 47 review is filed in the exact same court that passed the decree. A Section 115 revision, dealing with jurisdictional excess or illegality, goes exclusively to the High Court. If the decree survives, it moves to enforcement. Section 47 dictates a strict mandate. All execution disputes must be resolved by the executing court. Separate suits are entirely prohibited. The foundational case law doctrine is that an executing court cannot go behind the decree. Its role is enforcement, not interpretation. There is a singular, absolute exception to this rule. A decree issued without jurisdiction is a nullity. This fatal defect can be raised even at the execution stage, and it cannot be cured by the consent of the parties. Once finality is achieved, the execution process is an enclosed, highly protected system designed to deliver immediate relief to the decree holder without further interference. The CPC functions as a unified, sequential machine, processing every claim from Section 9 initiation through to Order 21 execution. For complex procedural overlaps, binary anchors are the ultimate diagnostic tool. Separate res judicata from estoppel by checking the source. Res judicata originates from the court, estoppel from conduct. Categorize time's effect on a case. Standard limitation is a remedy bar, adverse possession a right extinction. Internalizing these specific triggers and conditions provides a reliable structural baseline for complex litigation strategy. By utilizing this algorithmic model, practitioners can instantly diagnose procedural defects, anticipate judicial blocks, and seamlessly navigate the architecture of the law.